were important.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jared, which one I'm talking about, they didn't deserve to be treated the way they were. But, Jared, thank you very, very much. Now, one of those 4 Democrats who proposed those cuts joining us right now, Michigan Congressman Gary Peters. Congressman, good to have you. I guess you were kind of slapped upside the head pretty good. What happened?
Well, we have actually formed a working group, a deficit reduction working group, 3 other colleagues of mine coming up with some specific ideas. You know, we have been frustrated that we've heard a lot of rhetoric, and quite frankly from both sides of the aisle, about deficit reduction, and yet no one is coming up with specific ideas. And in our mind, unless you put specific ideas on the table, it's not real. You've got to have specific cuts in place. We've introduced a number of pieces of legislation to do that, to actually cut about $70 billion, which we believe are things that would hopefully not have a whole lot of objection to.
No, but, and you're right. By the way, Congress, you're exactly right, because the Republicans talk a good game on this. We've got to cut. When I've had them on this show, I say, what specifically would you cut? It's like, the Ralph Cramden, can you correct an apple deal? So you're right about that.
Yeah,
what I'm wondering, though, Congressman, is when push came to shove on this matter, the issue in dispute was this relatively small, and I say that in these days, $1.4 billion, that would, on the surface, be a little more than a statement, but a good one. And then that's all I know you and your colleagues intended here. And yet you were beaten to a pulp. What happened?
Well, there was definitely a lot of pushback. Certainly when I say that
from
you've got to put
who gave you the most pushback? Congressman Obey?
Well, a number of folks in the caucus were quite animated, we should say, in their discussion about that.
Well, what were they animated about? Their initiatives that you were just like a flea on the rear of an elephant with these cuts. I mean, you were just saying this little bit we think is doable. So what got them all so jumpy?
Well, it's hard to say. In my mind, not only were they cuts that made sense, but also they were usually areas of the budget that often still had money in there that wasn't even expended. So we were putting more spending on top of money that hadn't even been spent yet, but had already been appropriated.
Are you angry? Are you angry?
We were, yes, very frustrated, not only the pushback, but also, we tried to get Republican support as well, and it was quite obvious that Republicans didn't want to support a Democratic amendment from 4 junior members, and a lot of Democrats didn't want to have the cut. So we got pushback from both parties, which just makes you step back and say, this place is really pretty dysfunctional when you can't get people in either party willing to go forward and put some common sense cuts forward. We know that we've got to deal with a very large budget deficit, deficits that have to be dealt with, but you got to start now. You've got to start making some of those tangible cuts. And my feeling is if you can't cut 2%, how are we going to make the real big decisions that are going to have to be made in order to bring this deficit into control?
You're absolutely right. And the Pucks and Republicans, too, you talk a good game trying to do and what clearly this congressman and his colleagues were trying to do. Right. If you want to be serious about this guy put his neck on the line to challenge his speaker, to challenge his majority leader, and both the parties left you hanging. And that's not right. That's not right. Congressman, thank you very much.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
All right, by now you have heard about the nun tragically killed by an illegal